Welcome to the Michigan Football Junkies podcast. I'm Jeremy Miller, and we're going to talk about a few different things today. We have our second part of our 2022 recruiting class that we'll be going over. We're also going to talk about all the coaching changes. Josh Gaddis obviously left to go to Miami. That whole scenario, we're going to talk about that. First, Gaddis was going to get a head coaching job probably next year if he stayed at Michigan. So he wasn't going to stay very long anyways. He was up for the Virginia job, and he was, from what I hear, he was second on the list. He almost was gone anyways. When Jim was looking at the NFL, Gaddis was being contacted by Mario Cristobal about coming to Miami. Now, obviously, he wasn't going to take the job because he was going to be recommended for the Michigan job by Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh was going to recommend him for it. Anybody who says differently just doesn't know what they're talking about. He was definitely going to be recommended for Michigan's job. Whether he was going to be hired for it or not, that I don't know. From what I hear, Gaddis was the favorite to be the head coach if Jim did accept a job in the NFL. Now, during this whole time, Mario Cristobal is coming hard after Gaddis. And after Jim decided to come back, Gaddis got an opportunity to sit down and negotiate his contract, and he hears what Michigan offers him. Miami had came with a big number for Gaddis. When he was offered his contract at Michigan, it was over $600,000 less than what the offer he got at Miami. Miami came at him big. He never says a word about what he was already offered. Now, they know that he was being talked to by a Miami. After that, he basically said, okay, I'm done. You guys don't appreciate me here. And he bounced to Miami. Now, the problem that Gaddis has, is the way he left Michigan. That text to the players and coming out and speaking negatively about Michigan, man, it's not a good look. So that's going to be something he's going to have to answer when he interviews for more head coaching jobs. Athletic directors don't want a guy who's going to be super emotional and just go off on a tangent, with the press or whatever. You just don't want to have a bad look at your university. At best, you're the next Mike Gundy.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
At worst, you're the next Brockmeyer.
So people just watch videos of the worst moments of my life and just laugh at my pain?
Yes.
No. Oh my God. I mean, I thought I hit rock bottom in a handicap stall in Bangkok when a Thai ladyboy snorted crank off my Johnson while a sunburned German watched us on the toilet.
There he is.
Hopefully that works out well for him. I thought it was a little bit strange that he left for Miami, but when you're going to get offered a lot more money to do the same job, you get no taxes in Florida, not to mention it is Miami. You're going to be in shorts and a t-shirt every day. Instead of dealing with snow, you're getting over $600,000 more, plus you're not going to have to pay taxes on it. Yeah, that's an easy decision when you break it down and look at it. So with that, Matt Weiss has been promoted to co-offensive coordinator with Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore, he was the co-offensive coordinator last year, and Mike Hart is the run game coordinator. Matt Weiss, what a lot of people don't know is Jim Harbaugh was going to take Matt Weiss with him if he went to Minnesota. Matt Weiss is a guy who came from Baltimore. He's kind of moved up pretty quickly, a big analytics guy. I think he's going to work very well with Sharon Moore. Now, this is the one thing that I will say negatively against Gaddis. Gaddis had the coordinator position all to himself in 2019 and 2020. That was a crap offense. Didn't look good. Sharon Moore moved from tight end to offensive line, and he also got the co-offensive coordinator position as well. Sharon Moore was an offensive lineman, but he's never coached it. There was a little bit of hesitancy with some of the Michigan faithful, but Sharon Moore has just knocked it out of the park. Just absolutely killed it. I believe between he and Mike Hart that they have done a phenomenal job in the run game. So I really like what they've done so far. Obviously, we had huge production on the ground. You had that thunder and lightning with Haskins and Corum. I think they did a phenomenal job last year. Hart and Sharon Moore both. That run game was phenomenal. The passing game was solid. It was obviously started really slow in the beginning of the part of the year. A lot of people criticized it, but I think a lot of that was just the fact that they didn't need to pass the ball. They didn't need to. They just kept playing to their strength and running the ball, especially when you look at Washington. Washington turned out to be a pretty darn good defense. Michigan just ran it down their throats. They didn't have to worry about those cornerbacks. With Matt Weiss, I do believe he's going to help the passing offense this year. Hart obviously is staying at running backs. Bellamy is moving from safeties to coach the wide receivers. He's a former wide receiver. He was a former head coach at Belleville, so he's moving to the wide receiver position. I really like that. I think it fits him. And Bellamy is also a huge recruiter. I love what he did last year. I think he was in on almost as many as Clinkscale. And Clinkscale's considered one of the best recruiters around. On offense, you also had Grant Newsome get promoted from an off-field coach to an on-field coach, and he's going to coach the tight ends. He's been coaching the tight ends and offensive line the past few years off-field. I love Grant Newsome coming up. I know he's very young. He's only 24 years old, and that's pretty young for a coach. But you also need people that understand the new style of recruiting, pitching. You have a player who was a big time true freshman at Michigan come in. He had a huge future, got a devastating injury. He can show these recruits firsthand, like, hey, this is about more than just making it to the NFL. Because most players don't make it to the NFL. You can prepare not for the next 4 years, but for the next 40 years, which is obviously a pitch Michigan's used a number of times. So I do really like that one. Obviously, Mike Elston has came in. He is a big recruiter coming over from Notre Dame. He came home. He wants to be here. That's something that you really have to look at, that Elston wanted to be here when he could have stayed at Notre Dame. He chose to leave there. He's been there for a number of years. He could have followed Brian Kelly, but he wanted to come back to Michigan. He did so in a time when Jim Harbaugh, he might not even be here. So I really like that. You also have Jay Harbaugh moving to safeties. He's going to coach the safeties. No, he's never coached on defense before. This will be the first. He does pick everything up really fast. He also have Clinkscale there that he can coach. He basically coaches the defensive backs. He doesn't coach just the cornerbacks. He can coach safeties as well. But then you also have new defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, who has also coached the safeties before. He coached the defensive backs in Baltimore. Last year, he accepted a job to be the defensive coordinator at Vanderbilt. Now, they were in a horrific situation, turnover-wise, from the previous year. But the nice thing is, Minter was also the recruiting coordinator, and they had a pretty nice recruiting class for Vanderbilt. I believe it was in the 30s. He started off with a similar system to McDonald's defense, which is the 2-4-5. A lot of people say it was a 3-4. If you look at it, no, you could say that's a 2-4-5 or even a 4-2-5. Because what they did is you would have Mozzie Smith and Chris Hinton with their hand in the dirt. They're the two defensive linemen. You had Aiden and Ajabo on the other side standing up as rush ends. And then you had two linebackers that would drop into coverage or support for the run, and then you had 5 defensive backs. I really like this style of defense. So now you have guys coming off the edge. You can blitz up the middle. What we don't know is how is Jesse Minter gonna handle this defense? Because in the beginning at Vanderbilt, he was running a 2-4-5. And at the end of the season, he was running more of a traditional 3-4. Now, I don't know if he changed because he likes that style better, or did he change because they didn't have the personnel to do a 2-4-5 with Vanderbilt's defense? So we will be able to find that out a little bit more as spring ball hits and fall camp. But with that, Jesse Minter will also be able to help Jay Harbaugh. As far as this coaching staff, here's the one thing everybody has to understand. Guys are going to get poached. Guys are going to get promoted and take over their own programs. Sharon Moore, probably not going to be here forever. I mean, this could be Sharon Moore's last season here. This could be Clinkscale's last season here. These are guys that are going to get promoted. Mike Elston, he wants to be D coordinator. Good programs lose coaches every year. That's just part of it. By losing coaches, it means that you're doing something right. So that there is that. And on to our recruits. I did try and go a little bit less in depth than the previous episode. I used to have a recording partner, but now I'm doing it all myself, so I have to watch it from getting on these huge tangents and having like a 10-minute discussion on one single recruit, because otherwise these podcasts are going to be super long. Domini Dent is first up. He's 6'1", 180 pounds. He plays safety. Big hitter. Drops players right where they're at. He has good speed. Always seems to be the quarterback of the defense. You see him calling out pre-snap reads and audibles. In several camps, Dent is routinely called the most underrated player by the scouts. He makes a lot of one-on plays. If there's one word you can use to describe Domini Dent, it's smart. There was one play in particular where Domini's playing one-on-one coverage in a camp, and it's an out and up is the route, but the wide receiver never pressed Domini before making the break to go out towards the sidelines. So Domini starts drifting towards the sidelines, but also back, because he was reading it as an out and up because of the way the wide receiver ran the route. But I love seeing a high school safety read that and understand what should have been done, and that they could be setting, he might be being set up for that double move. Domini is often referred to as the most underrated player in all of these camps. So I love the way he plays. He reminds me of, he's the new age Marcus Ray. He's athletic, but he's smart. That's what I love the way he plays. Next up, you have CJ Stokes. He's a running back, 5'11", 190 pounds. They have him running a 4.51. He added a lot of weight between his junior and senior year, and he was a speed back who bulked up. Mainly you see it in his legs, but he still gets in and out of his breaks really quickly. The nice thing is you can see him running through arm tackles. He doesn't go down. He's running a lot stronger, and that's the thing is, like, he's really driving forward behind his pads. He gets a good lean before he hits some of these guys that he knows that he has to hit. And the only reason why I say that is because this was a guy who didn't like to hit people before his senior year. He catches the ball fairly well with his hands, doesn't seem to fight it. He's a willing blocker, which you're going to have to, being a running back for Mike Hart. Mike Hart's just not a guy that's going to allow you to be lax when it comes to blocking. He's going to get in. He's going to get in your ass if you don't really get after the block. Watching CJ Stokes, he kind of has his style. Now remember, I'm not comparing him. I'm not saying he's going to turn out to be this player. Just the style of the way he runs. Reminds me of Walter Payton. He's a guy who will make you miss. He can run through contact. I that's what he reminds me of. Tyler Morris next up, wide receiver, 4-star. He missed the entire 21 season. He's a hands catcher. He does he does adjust the ball really well. I watched him in several camps. But he has the one nice thing I really like about Morris is he has a very wide catch radius. He seems to be able to adjust to the ball going up, out from either side, down. You see him make a lot of different types of catches, and having a wide catch radius is huge for a quarterback. And so you really like that aspect. He gets in and out of his routes really well. He seems to always be open in these 7-on-7 games that I've watched. Seems to play pretty well with the ball in his hands. He's not a running back going to make you, juke and make everybody miss. But he kind of reminds you of a Golden Tate style when he was in college. Golden Tate has a very nice catch radius. But once he got to the NFL, he was really known for running with the ball in his hands like he was a running back and a wide receiver body. The nice thing about Tyler is he has pretty much recovered from his ACL injury that caused him to miss the 21 season. I've already seen him doing some speed drills, and when I spoke to him in December, he said that he would be a full go for spring ball, or he should be, rather. Next up, you have a guy that really kind of jumps off the page, and it just kind of surprises people because of where he comes from. This is Colston Loveland. He's a tight end out of Idaho. He's a 4-star tight end, number 15 overall, 6'5", 230 pounds, runs very well. He's a former wide receiver, and in his career, this tells you a little bit of something. For his career, he has 235 catches for 3,139 yards, almost 400 yards on the ground, and he scored a total of 39 touchdowns in high school. For the last 2 years, he's played tight end. Now, they do split him out. He catches the ball extremely well. Hands catcher, goes up high points it, and it doesn't even matter if he gets hit, because he just plays right through the contact. With Colston moving from wide receiver to tight end, he runs routes very well. So far, he's blocked fairly well, and obviously Idaho is not known for their high school athletes. It's not like it's 6A in Texas, but he had pretty good technique, and that's about the best you can say right now, with that level of competition. So Colston made a big leap in the rankings during his senior year, I think mainly because of Michigan offering him. Nobody recruits to Idaho that often. You don't see Alabama or Ohio State or Clemson. You don't see any of these schools ever getting players out of Idaho. Colston's he's going to become a real weapon for Michigan in the future. I can see him being maybe a George Kittle type for Michigan. I don't think he plays like him or anything like that. I guess now that I think about that, that's not that far off as far as his style. Colston's going to need a lot of work. I don't think that he got the greatest of coaching because of where he's from. Maybe in 2024 you could see him starting to make some sort of an impact, but I think that really depends on how fast he develops, as well as anybody ahead of him, because we're going to be losing probably 3 guys in the 2022 season. So we do kind of need Colston to develop quickly. Next up is Alessandro Lorenzatti. He's a tackle prospect. He's a 3-star, number 55 tackle overall. He's 6'5", 285. He's going to need a couple years, but you're looking at 2 years from now, this guy, he could be 6'5", 310, something like that. I could see him playing right guard. I could see him playing right tackle. I do like the way he kind of gets back quickly in his kick step. I think he could handle a speed rush in the Big Ten, but I really like the way he kind of anchored himself when he'd be going against a power rush. You also see him where he has to get to that next level, and he'll turn and hit that right guard, and then go to the next level. So he's helping out his offensive line, so they can't go around him where Alessandro was. So he keeps him inside, pinned to the inside, then gets up to that next level, so that way that running back has a lane to go through. Overall, I could see him playing guard or tackle at Michigan. I think we got a guy here that can develop into something. This is like maybe like a Zinter type. So I do like where that's going. Next up, you have a defensive tackle in Mason Graham. He's a 4-star, number 34 defensive lineman overall. 6'4", 295. He had 67 tackles as a senior. But more importantly, he had 14 sacks from a D-tackle position. Now, obviously, he's going to be down in, that 2 or 3 front, depending on what we run. And I still see Mason as a guy who could rush the passer from a defensive tackle position. I watched Mason in the Polynesian Bowl, and he was getting consistent pressure. He was pushing that guard right into the backfield almost every play. He got off his blocks, made some plays against the run as well. He seems to be a steal, like a real steal here. I could even see Mason Graham possibly playing a little bit in this upcoming season. I know that we don't have a ton of high-rated, big D linemen. So hopefully Elston can get a little bit more out of a few of these guys, but it really depends on what is going to happen as far as Minter goes. What style are they going to run? I really do hope for the 2-4-5, because I love that style. I think it works for this age of college football. Next up, we have Deuce Burlock, 6'2", 225 pounds. He runs a 4.6. He's got a nice vert. Deuce, I can't tell you enough about Deuce. This guy is all over the place. He runs very well from multiple positions on defense. He, up on the line, crashes down, weaves through traffic extremely well. His read and recognition skills are high. Just the way he stares intensely into the backfield at the quarterback and running back. I mean, it reminds you of like a Singletary, that deathly stare. Plays man and zone really well for a linebacker. Doesn't seem to feel out of place in coverage at all. He blitzes well. He has a great burst when he stays back in coverage, and the play kind of breaks down. The quarterback leaks out on the side, and you see him burst for that quarterback, and he's on him in a hurry. I can't say enough good things about him. Just love his game. He's style-wise, I'm not saying he's the next Devin Bush. Style-wise, he reminds me a little bit of Devin Bush. But the nice thing is he's a little bit longer. He's just not as fast as Devin Bush was. Next up, you got Keon Saab, 6'3", 200 pounds, 40 in 4.47 seconds. 100 meter, 10.8. So he can fly around. He takes great angles to the ball. He can crash down on the run in a hurry. He plays coverage very well. This is a 4-star, top 100 guy. Keon Saab is like a taller, longer Brad Hawkins. That's kind of what he reminds you of. He does lay a big hit, but doesn't seem to miss because he's always going for the big hit. He's rated really high. His height, weight, speed, and I think he can turn out to be a very good safety. He comes from IMG, and as everybody knows, that is a big time high school. That is a big time ground for 4- and 5-star players in Florida. Really looking forward to Keon Saab in the Michigan offense as well as the rest of these players. That's all I have for now. We will finish up the rest of them on our next podcast, and we'll also start getting into our early prediction for the starting offensive lineup and starting defensive lineup. Thanks so much for listening. Please rate and review. Give me a 5-star. I'm much appreciated. It helps me out a whole lot. If you have any questions or concerns or just want to hear about a certain topic, please do not hesitate to leave a message or comment. You can also find me on Twitter and send me a direct message there. I am at FBJunkies_, and you can always hit me up there. You can also find me on Facebook, Jeremy Miller, and you can see me in a Michigan jersey swinging on a wrecking ball like Miley Cyrus. Yeah, I don't know why I did it, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. So, other than that, just like every day,
it's great to be a Michigan Wolf!